Welcome to Family Focus, a program produced by Family Service Association. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Mike Moran, and here in the month of November, we've got a very special program for you because everyone knows it's been a time of great transition and a time of great challenge during the COVID pandemic. And, we have, as an agency in the community, undergone a tremendous amount of change and transition, not only in dealing with COVID, but also having an administrative and leadership change at the very top of the organization. And so it's a particularly great pleasure for me to introduce our two guests today. And I've been trying to figure out in which order should I introduce them. I think I'm going to do it alphabetically. I'm safe that way. We are very happy to have back on this program someone who is no stranger to Family Focus. She comes to us in a new capacity, though. She is Sharon Ford. And in the past, she has joined us as a member of the senior leadership team of Family Service Association and a person who oversees, well, really all of our programs. And she has skillfully come on our program and talked about guardianship, talked about our various elder and adult services. And today she comes to us with our congratulations in a new capacity because while our dear friend Carol Nagel, who has served as president and CEO of Family Service Association for many, many years, is still with us in her capacity as president. Sharon is now the new chief executive officer of Family Service Association. So Sharon, welcome back to Family Focus and our congratulations on the new gig.
Thanks, Mike. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, we're so glad you are. And if that weren't enough, another incredible change is at the top of our volunteer board of directors. We are governed by a volunteer board of incredible community people. And Sharon's elevation to the position of CEO happens to coincide with the, I guess you would say, the inauguration of a new board chair. And she is no stranger to our agency. She's been associated with it for a long, long time. And no stranger to our friends at Bristol Community College, where her professional pursuits are found. And she is Jo-Ann Pelletier. And Jo-Ann, welcome for your first, what we hope will be first of many appearances in Focus. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's great to have you both. Where do we begin? I want to start with Jo-Ann because I think that volunteering is a particularly rewarding pursuit. I've been lucky enough personally to been called upon to do some volunteer work in the community over the years. And I don't know about your other endeavors, but boy, did you jump to the occasion, rise to the occasion as a member of the Board of Family Service. How long have you been associated with the agency?
I'm starting my 10th year. But commitment to the community and service is something that is strong in my family. I was a Girl Scout leader, which was a very enjoyable opportunity for me. And my husband's an Eagle Scout, and my son is one as well, and has spent a lot of time with the local troop in Somerset.
Wow, that's great. Now that we had you in close-up, there might be some people who are watching this program who recognize the decor of your office where you're sitting, and it is on the campus of Bristol Community College. Tell us about what you do there.
So I should mention that the brick, this is Bristol brick. We have our own brick. If you've been to our campus, you know that all of our buildings have the same brick, and it's literally our brick, and the paint is Bristol brick tone on the inside. So it's important for us for everything to look consistent. So if you've ever been here, you know that that's the case. And we do have a very beautiful campus, which has recently had lots of upgrades. So I personally have spent my entire career in higher education at a similar mission-driven organization here at Bristol for more than 2 decades. I've been here for 22 years. I was also a student here back, I guess I can say it, in the 80s. And so it was a joy to return here to the college after departing, getting my bachelor's degree, getting my master's degree, and getting my foothold in higher education. Our students come from the same neighborhoods and cities as our clients at FSA. And there are many similarities to the services that we provide to our students. Our students, if you have any children or know any children now, colleges are not just, you stop in, take your classes and leave. We provide a variety of services to help the student grow to be the best that they can be.
Right.
As a leader at Bristol, I'm responsible for information technology, but I sit at the president's leadership team. So I have the good fortune of being exposed to all of the facets of running our organization. So it was a pleasure to begin working at FSA, where there's lots of similarities in the things that we do.
Boy, that's terrific. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around the scope of the challenges that you would have from an information technology perspective, particularly during this particular time of COVID, where people are more than ever, as witnessed by this program, dependent upon the technology that's out there to be able to do the things that we used to do face to face and very routinely. Now, not so much.
In the early days of March, it was a blur. It felt like the days were running into the weeks, and then it was months. And it's interesting because we provided, as I know the agency did, equipment for people to continue to be productive at home. And as the dates continue to get pushed along, people are coming out of the woodwork saying, well, I need this now, and I want to take home that.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely been a challenge.
Yeah. And Sharon, let's talk about that, because the perspective that I have from inside the agency is obviously not particularly objective. I am a cheerleader for Family Service Association, but I do have to say that now that we're in the month of November in particular, with the passage of time, while the world is still very different from what it was prior to March, you and the board and the rest of the senior leadership team had to sit down back in the middle of March and say, okay, what do we do? What do we do first? What can we do? Can you just give us, we want to put our nose under the tent of that process, just to figure out and find out what it is that you had to do to basically have programs that provide direct service literally closed down, padlocked, and then slowly over time opening up. Give us some insight into just how all that worked.
Well, the good news for us was we had started to plan that process as we were starting to watch the statistics and seeing what was starting to happen with the pandemic. So we were already looking at how could we provide the equipment needed to our programs that weren't currently as advanced in technology so that they could continue to work remotely. And how would we work with the families of members in the site-based programs that we were working on? And so the team came together and we really started to prioritize. So what were the first priorities? First, we need to look at the site-based programs that we knew we were going to need to shut down because we could not guarantee keeping everyone safe and healthy at those sites. And shortly after we made that decision, Department of Public Health made decisions for us. But during that time, we looked at working with each leader who is just phenomenal. I have the luxury of leading some of the most valuable leaders you would ever want to have. They're driven by the passion of providing the best service for our members as we can. And they were already on it. They were already looking at what their members would need if they needed to close down the program, who they needed to contact, what family members now needed to be made aware that their loved one was no longer going to be attending the program, and how would they support their extenuating needs. That also included encompassing outreaching to community agencies that were already going through their own change and turmoil of how were they going to deal with this. So it was not an easy feat to do that, but the dedication of our leaders made it easier for us as a senior leader to work through those pieces, to know that, okay, the site-based programs are all set. What is our next priority? Our next priority is looking at all of those programs that are outreach that are not already set up in an electronic world where they have access to all their information. That led us right to our IT department, and as small as they are a mighty team because they looked at what resources we had, what resources we needed to get immediately, and how could we strategize to give the equipment we needed that were in short demand, because at that point, I think just about everybody was starting to look to purchase laptops? How could we also use the equipment that they were using in their offices so that they could work from home? And we had multiple plans all going at the same time. And then working with the state, making sure we were meeting all of our requirements, making sure that we could move into a form of telephonic service. At the same time, we had one of our most mission-driven programs, our home assistance program, that works with home health aides going out into folks' homes to provide service. We needed to continue that service going. So we were at the same time reaching out to purchase and find as much PPE or personal protection equipment as we could, which was gowns and gloves and masks.
You know, I'm so glad that you mentioned the folks in the home assistance program, because I was going to ask you specifically about that. Yes, we have childcare programs, and in March they were shut down. Yes, we have other programs. We do, nobody knows this more than the two of you, thousands of hours a week of counseling service, professional counseling with a clinical team, and so many other services. But those care providers in the home assistance program who gowned up, masked up, gloved up, and with sanitizing equipment knew, and you knew as leaders, these people who are served on a day-to-day basis with a visit to their home or apartment for personal care, meal prep assistance, housekeeping, and other kinds of essential services, you just can't say, well, that program's not going to function anymore until we come out of the cave in this pandemic. They just did it. They just went about doing it. And I know that you've called them on a number of occasions, Sharon, the boots on the ground, and they really have been warriors in providing service all through the time that many other programs really had to close. So they're to be credited for that in so many ways. Jo-Ann, I'm very interested in your reaction to some of the things that Sharon was saying about the technology and the reliance upon the technology and getting a bunch of laptops encrypted and doing whatever it is. I don't even speak that language, but you do. So, I mean, for your department, it may be a routine kind of thing. For an agency like us, it was kind of, despite the quality of the people that work in our IT department, it was something to witness and to behold. Did you have a similar sort of approach at the college to make things being up and running when the demands of IT just were through the roof?
We did. We had to put our heads together and think about where we had the equipment that we could beg, borrow, and steal. We have more than 100 classrooms just even here on the Fall River campus, and we identified that those systems would be good systems for people operating in offices. And so we just started taking them out of classrooms, and we have them all bundled up and ready to go. And as we identify a need, a staff person, whether it's, we have to look at the family as a whole, as FSA does. We have families with young children at home that are now doing remote schooling. And yes, they may have a system at home, but now they have the need to have their young children using that system. So it's been an ever moving target in terms of what folks need at home, not to mention the thousands of students that we serve in our community that are under-resourced, and their ability to forklift their education from on campus to online. So we readied hundreds of Chromebooks, and getting them, as Sharon alluded to earlier, was a challenge. There are ebbs and flows. At one point, the vendor that we work with had 5 million Chromebooks on back order. So it's, there's a lot of people making a lot of money right now. Certainly, we purchased headsets for our employees so that they were able to do advising for students. We have document cameras so that faculty can and tutors can help students from home. So we were meeting people in the parking lot. we have the good fortune, if you've ever been to the Fall River campus, we have a very large solar canopy, and we've been doing a lot of services from the solar canopy. We have a mobile food market that happens once per month, and that's where we were handing out the Chromebooks for students.
Geez, the more you talk about it, the more I agree with the point that you made earlier about the similarities between what goes on the campus and what goes on under the roof here at FSA. I want to go back to the time where you began as a member of the board of directors, and then over the years, you were our treasurer for a number of years, were you not? Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Of course you were.
Of course, and one of the reasons why is because I would see you often. So
because what does tell the folks at home what the treasurer has to do once a week?
I will. So having served for 10 years now, first as a board member, but then as well as treasurer, where I had the opportunity to forge very close personal relationships with many of the staff at the office who have been integral to its success. And this is because I visited once per week, because I signed all of the checks, not all of them, but all of them over a certain figure. So I intimately knew just what was being spent and where. And sometimes I would question, like, why, things, especially in my area of expertise, why are we spending X on, cell service or internet service, where I could comment. And others were just like, oh yeah, we have a lot of space. We lease a lot of space because we provide service all the way, from the South Shore all the way to the tip of Cape Cod. So yeah, I was able to get a very intimate understanding of the agency as a result of that.
Boy, that speaks volumes, because there are people who serve on boards of directors and they kind of dip their toe in once a month. They go to a meeting, they might do a little bit of preparation, read some documents prior to the meeting, provide governance to an organization, cast some votes, and go through the Robert's Rules of Orders. But with us, with our agency, it's not really like that. And the perspective that you got from being the treasurer is, and I'm glad you described it the way you did, because I see it every day. It's a dynamic place. There's a lot of decisions being made, a lot of folks who bring to the table their skills and get the job done. And Sharon, they're all yours. The question, Sharon, I wanted to ask, and you kind of in part have answered it when you talked about how the agency sort of got back up and running on all cylinders after COVID. What are some of to this day, the ongoing challenges that the coronavirus rules and regulations and the change in our culture, what are some of the things that still linger in terms of the different way that we do things? Like, for example, meetings on Zoom or other similar platforms. But beyond that, what are the kind of things that still factor into your thinking every day when you plan services and implement them in the community?
So there's quite a few of them. So we try to prioritize them. So it was really interesting because it became crystal clear when we were trying to now reopen our site-based programs. With the new restrictions, we had to reduce our census. And so we're doing good if we've got about a 40% capacity at our sites. And meeting all of the specific requirements to keep everyone safe was a big challenge. And how do we still have a quality service? How do we still provide the care that we need and make this a place that people want to come? And so we worked as a team to do that, and those sites opened and folks are thrilled to be there, even with the restrictions. But it still brings us back to the core of who we are. We're mission driven. We believe in our service and we know how important it is in the member's life every day. How do we continue now to get to those most vulnerable members that we serve, even though they may not be able to come to a face-to-face, they may not be able to come to a site? A telephonic or a telehealth screening is not something that they can manage because they either don't have the skill set to manage it or they do not have the equipment. And that becomes the day-to-day challenge we work with. And so we've really worked well with the leadership to think of creative ways to get to our members, to provide them some very basic needs that they need. We had members who didn't even have masks so that they could step out of their apartments. We had folks who still needed access to food. So what we worked on were safe measures that our staff could implement. So first and foremost, they were able to have some form of contact with their members, who was very important. And they would also still feel very good about the service they're providing. It was a challenge for our staff because of the way that we changed the service provision. Many of our staff are in the positions they're in because they believe in what they do, and they're driven by providing services to people in need. And so we had to think of creative ways to do that. And so we have staff who do technically swaps in the parking lot of gloves and protective equipment for folks, whether it's their masks that they need, their gloves that they need. We have folks that are going to food pantries and getting food for some of our members. We have folks that are delivering meals because the members are unable to prepare healthy meals and refuse to eat home delivered meals. So they've gone out of their way to really make sure that they can get those services out to individuals. Now we've gone so long, because none of us thought when we closed our doors in March that we would still be out of our office space and working remotely in September. So now we're looking at all of those regulatory pieces and authorizations and releases and care plans, and how can we manage those and get the members' voice if they're unable to participate in a Zoom. So that's led us down yet another path of extending our technology resources and looking at different resources and tools that we could use so that we could fulfill those requirements. So every day it changes on what the priority becomes because the service has been extended out so long. So it's really an evolving process. And what does that look like in the future? That's one of the things we spend a lot of time looking at right now, is learning what we have learned by having some of our staff working remotely and working remotely successfully. What does that look like for the future? How do we now lead this team that used to be all in-house when some of them are going to remain in the community? It leads us to looking at those leased properties that Jo-Ann referenced, and making different decisions on how we structure our service.
Absolutely. And Jo-Ann, Sharon just used the word future. So here's an incoming board chair. I see you. You're right there. I want you to talk to us a little bit about, because I'm sure that every person who chairs a board or serves on a board says, you know what, I'd like to see us go in this direction and do this or pursue this. Maybe it's too early and an unfair question, but are there any things that you bring to the table right now in terms of ideas that you would like to implement for this 135-year-old agency that continues to serve the community?
So for 10 of those 135 years, I've been truly amazed at the innovative approaches to new programs, and, you know, from youth services, which has been a big emphasis in recent years for the agency, all the way through to elder services. We really have built a very robust agency that serves so many communities with great focus and good need. I believe that, you know, we have a